Welcome to this very special edition of CBA Digital Network First Take. I'm your host, Chris Heite, joined by Conor Doogan and TJ Meehan. And today, we have a very special episode. We're going through the broadcast sports of the winter. We're doing basketball, hockey, and wrestling. So guys, let's get started with basketball. Conor, give me a little preview of the schedule right now.
So, the season's going to start out in a few weeks. They're heading down to Florida for a tournament, and that's a great way to, get the season started off on a good foot. And then when you come back from that, hopefully you build momentum into the Buck Classic. And, we remember from last year, the Colts are defending champions of that tournament, and there's no reason this year why they can't repeat. After a great performance by Will Bradley last year and the rest of the guys, they could very well repeat that tournament. So I think the best way to go about that would be getting a strong start to the season down in Florida against some really good competition, carrying that momentum into the Buck Classic, trying to get the season off on a good foot, heading into 2023 strong. Mm-hmm. We got the Founders Cup, January 14th at RBC. Last year, CBA took the loss, 59-47, after a second half crumble, if you will. So we're looking for revenge this time around. As for the home games, we've got 5 home games in 2023. The first one versus Freehold Township on January 5th. Myself and Ben Prudin are going to be on the call. And then as for the Shore Conference, I think CBA has to be the favorite this far.
Definitely.
Right? Marlboro was their threat last year. Obviously, we had that crazy game that went into overtime. CBA taking that one. But Marlboro lost 8 key seniors, most of them playing at the collegiate level now. So that game's actually going to be January 17th at 5:30 p.m. tip-off. So I think CBA has to have the favorite here for the Shore Conference. But that's kind of a quick rundown of the schedule. Not as many home games this year. They do have St. Rose at the end of the year, which is a newer opponent. They don't usually have St. Rose, so that'll be a nice game to get some new gameplay. But that's kind of a rundown of the schedule.
Absolutely. Now, TJ, before we start moving on to who can step up this season, talking about the bigger games of the season, the Founders Cup, even though it's away, how can, as a person who's a vivid Colt Crazies member, how can the Colt Crazies contribute to these games?
The Colt Crazies, they bring the energy that the players need. Like me personally, I'm a rugby player. We don't really have the Colt Crazies, but even some fans, it just brings the level from here to about here. So with enough Colt Crazies at the game, it can change the momentum just like that.
Absolutely. The Founders Cup last year, I was at that game as a writer, and it was just an insane atmosphere. Even if the Founders Cup is away, I recommend all our viewers to go to that game. It's so much fun. We have a lot of fun. Now, moving on to our next topic of basketball, we have to talk about, and either of you guys could butt in here, about who's going to step up this season. Obviously, Will Bradley and Joe White, the seniors, Colin Torres, they're all the seniors. But I feel like, personally, as a junior, Peter Noble's our rising star. How about Conor? We could start with
Peter Noble. Last year we saw him a little reckless at times, but this is a new year. He's a junior upperclassman, like you said. He's more mature physically, more mature mentally. He's tougher. He can limit the mental mistakes easier, and he can stay in there a little longer physically. That'll keep him in for what, 2, 3, 5 more minutes. If need be. So I think a big season is coming up for him.
He's a very clutch player, and he hit a lot of clutch threes last year. Now, TJ, from a senior's point of view, with Joe White and Will Bradley, how do you think they can step up, and Colin Torres?
Well, I think that them three, they could step up. They're seniors. Joe White and Will have been playing varsity basketball since freshman year. So I think that now, since it's their senior year, they've got to take that extra step. Make everybody else work hard and work as hard as they're working, and they gotta relax a little bit on the court,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely, TJ. Anything else to say on that? Nope. All right. So a very hopeful basketball season this year for the Colts. I'm very excited. I'm sure you guys were very excited.
I'm excited.
And now we move to the next exciting season, hockey. As we know, last year we won it all. We won the state championship at the Rock, the Prudential Center. Now, Doogan, our schedule previewer for this episode per se, tell me a little bit about their schedule.
So we've got Gordon Cup games all across the board: Seton Hall Prep, Bergen Catholic, Gloucester County. We've got a bunch of different Gordon Cup games that like TJ said, we're going to need the Colt Crazies at. So yeah, we've got all those games lined up.
Now, obviously, with the loss of Donahoe, our fantastic goalie from last year, how do you think CBA can rebound a little bit? It's a tough question to answer as a
So I
broadcast.
think we're forgetting that star hockey player Pat Riley
he's back.
is back. He was drafted, and he is back as of the beginning of November, I believe, the middle of November. So he's been back at school for a couple weeks now, and so you add that into the mix where you thought you were going to have, Tygeson, Leighton, Gravina, Burr. You thought you were going to have those guys as your senior core. You add Pat Riley back to that mix, and the game changes. We saw the impact he made his freshman, sophomore, and junior year. Cementing his legacy last year. As if it wasn't cemented enough, he can come back and help this team win another state championship.
Yeah, Pat Riley, as Conor was just saying, he's been a leader this whole time, and now finally as a senior, he would be the big leader of this team. Now, TJ, sticking with hockey for a minute and sticking with the idea of cult crazies, how do you think, like Conor mentioned it a little bit before, but I want your point of view now, how do you think the cult crazies can affect these big hockey games?
I mean, I feel like it's the same, or it's mostly the same. It's the same thing that I said with basketball, but on the ice, the hockey players, they can't hear as much. So the more people there are, the louder it gets, the more they can hear, and it just, as I said before, it raises the energy, raises everybody's just morale. And if you have a great morale, you play better, naturally.
Absolutely. And now moving on to our next subtopic of hockey, the boys had a phenomenal season in hockey last year, and obviously it's gonna be very hard to repeat something like last year. It was very exciting around CBA. We had a lot of fun going to the games. I'm sure the guys had a lot of fun playing in them, and very good games. How can CBA repeat their historic hockey season, dude?
I think it comes down to sticking with. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You are losing some guys, but you also still have talent on this team. And it's not just any talent, but it's talent that's been here for minimum 3 years. Talent didn't come on the scene as of last year. This talent's been here since TJ and I started here at CBA, since, even before that. So I think you just got to stick to what you know and don't fix it.
Yeah, we're still becoming a dynasty over the years. And, now TJ, you know a decent amount about hockey, so repeating the historic season, don't you think good defense could be a good part of that? Obviously, in any type of sport, defense is a big part, but now with no Donahoe, you think the defense will be key?
I think the defense will definitely have to step up after losing such an impactful goalie. But defense wins championships in every sport, and especially if you don't have a goalie like Donahoe there to back you up if you fail a little bit on defense. The defense just needs to take maybe one, maybe even two extra steps up to just play so much better this year.
Absolutely. So hockey, now we're going to segue to our next topic, but hockey, another sport that we're very hopeful for, and we hope that they can go all the way again and bring home another championship for CBA. Now, moving on to the next sport, we have wrestling, our final broadcasting sport, and I'm going to let TJ do the schedule preview since he knows a lot more about the topic than me and Conor do. So, TJ, give me some insight.
So this year's wrestling schedule, there's only 6 home matches, kind of disappointing, but you got to understand that on December 18th, the boys are attending a big tournament in New Orleans, but that's after their first home match on December 15th versus Freehold Borough. They have a huge match against Bergen on January 21st. I recommend that everybody attends. Bergen is, I believe, 1 in the state. CBA was 2 last year.
Did Bergen lose anyone? Any seniors?
I don't believe so. I mean, they probably have, but they're still
going to be a force.
They're still going to be a huge force. But I think this year we're going to have probably a bigger force since all of our juniors or last year's juniors, who are now seniors, were such an impact as juniors.
Yeah. We have essentially the same team.
Yes, essentially the same team minus
Totten.
Garrett Totten and Vin Princepi, which were really amazing wrestlers, but I mean they left because they graduated. But we placed 2 in the state last year, number 1 in the short conference, district champions again. So I think the 31st in the country. So I think that we have a great shot at winning states. Definitely, we're definitely going to go far this season. And that's it for the schedule.
Should be an exciting season indeed. So going back to the idea of the young guys stepping up, Conor, how do you think guys like Alex Nini could step up this season to become a leader of the team?
Well, similar to Peter Noble, he was thrown into the fire at a young age, freshman, sophomore year. So he's been under pressure. He knows what it's like to win, and he has that under his belt now with maturity. Physically, mentally, he has that maturity under his belt and the experience. So it's all up here for Alex Neely.
Absolutely. Now TJ, well, one more thing before we sign off here. Now besides Alex Neely, who's a young guy, who do you think are like the senior captains and senior leaders that can lead this team to victory?
I think there's 3 main captains, and then that are seniors, and those are Xander Silva, Julian George, and Ty Barrett. Mm-hmm. They are such a force in the wrestling world, especially for CBA. They really bring the team together. But also not to forget senior Rob Canarino at 215 or heavyweight this year. He hasn't really made his mind up yet, but he's a big part of the morale that comes with joining CBA wrestling. Like if you join CBA wrestling and you know Rob, you're just gonna wrestle better because he brings
that character.
Yeah, he brings the character.
Natural born leader.
Yeah,
natural born leader.
And Xander, Julian, and Ty, they're amazing wrestlers on the mat, and they're also they're really good kids off the mat. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they could go beat up somebody and tech them in 2-3 minutes, and then just go off the mat and just be ready to support the entire rest of their team just like that.
The common theme of all of these sports, actually, and I'm going to bring it all together now, is that leadership is key. It seems like the leaders, each leader for each team, like we were talking about with Pat Riley, Peter Noble, Xander Silva, Julian George, and Barrett. We were talking about all of them. Leadership is a key in all sports at CBA. Won't you guys agree with me?
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to wrap it up for this edition of CBA Digital Network First Take. That's all for now. I'm Chris Heite with Conor Doogan and TJ Meehan.